Hello today. Welcome to the greatest year in music history, the only podcast about the greatest year in music history. I'm John.
I'm Jen, also known as J&J Music Factory. No relation to C&C Music Factory.
Shout out C&C Music Factory.
Yeah, so this podcast is about the greatest year in music history. It is based on peer-reviewed empirical scientific research.
Yeah, we do have to say that disclaimer. It wasn't even really our call to do this year or even this podcast for that matter.
We're just here to state the facts, the scientific facts. This is no way based on our personal opinions. I know a lot of listeners might think that this is something subjective, but it's not.
Right. And if this is your first time listening to the pod, which hopefully it is, as it's the first episode, the greatest year in music history is indeed 1997.
Duh, obviously.
So a little background about us. We're starting this podcast because we've always loved music a lot. Jen in particular has had a deep obsession with the 90s. In general, 90s music, all genres, all types, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So this podcast is here because it was just way too often I would hear a song from the 90s and I'd think, man, this is good. I wonder what year it came out. And 97 times out of 100, it was 1997.
So we're here to gush about the music in 1997 and specifically whole albums that come out in that year. So each episode is going to be a different album, and that's just our way to show off the evidence, proving it truly is the greatest year in music history. So with that, we wanted to start the series out with a record we both really like, save all of our heated arguments, at least until episode 2. So we're going to be talking about, as if you haven't seen it from the episode description on your phone, Radiohead's OK Computer.
Yes. So pumped.
So let's, I guess, get some background. Like, where did you first hear about it? Or maybe even where did you first hear of Radiohead? Like, was this your first introduction to the band, or how did that work for you?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure OK Computer wasn't my intro. Well, me and everyone else on planet Earth had heard Creep before OK Computer came out.
Right.
Obviously. But
that's the sound of Johnny Greenwood's guitar going. But anyway, go on.
Plays loudly in the distance.
Yeah.
But no, I had heard Creep and Fake Plastic Trees and Street Spirit, and I'm sure a few others off of
Pablo Honey.
Yes, Pablo Honey.
Or the Bends.
And the Bends, exactly. Before I heard OK Computer. And then, honestly, I think the first introduction was probably watching MTV and seeing a music video or everybody talking about the 3 singles that ended up coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, same here. I mean, I'd heard Creep. I remember now kind of this infamous, I think they played Creep live on one of those MTV Spring Break. Mm-hmm. Just legendary broadcast before YouTube and DVR and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was really that MTV staple, like seeing the Paranoid Android video. I mean, there were the other videos too, you know?
Yep.
But for me, that kind of started all just that like era of animation that was like going on in the 90s. There was all this just weird stuff on MTV. I'd never seen it before, you know, as a 12-year-old seeing Aeon Flux and Daria and Beavis and Butthead and then everything else too, Nickelodeon, you know, Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Just really weird stuff. The Paranoid Android video was somehow also the weirdest, and it just got embedded in my head of like, well, what is this? What is this band? What is this music? Like, I'd never heard anything like that before as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, especially because I was listening to it again, and it starts off so like normal, like melodic, just chill, and then you're watching this cartoon music video and you're like, okay, weird, also weird, what? I don't get it. A face and is out of the okay, and then it just launches into that guitar. It's not as grungy as Creep, but you're like, oh, okay, Radiohead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was really that kind of like you forget where the song is going to take you, even though you've heard it hopefully dozens of times, if not hundreds, like we have. But and it's just weird because I feel like the 90s were the last time you could have a nearly 7-minute song be huge on MTV, played in full on the radio, again, pre-internet streaming. So if it was on the radio, it was just on, or MTV, it was just on. But like this, your beloved Celine Dion track, what's the one that goes, that's like 9 minutes?
Oh yeah, Not My Heart Will Go On.
No, of course not.
But
great song, great movie.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it.
Okay.
We'll get our fact checkers on that. But like November Rain and other these really long songs, it was like this kind of, you know, this ballad, but it got heavy and it got weird and you know, it was sort of like, at least for me, the kind of Bohemian Rhapsody of my youth.
Right.
Sort of along those same lines.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, you know, we're going to go through different facets of the album and everything in the bands and all that. But I mean, one of the most important things we're trying to answer is like, does it still rule? I think unequivocally the answer is yes.
Yes. However, I did meet someone once that was like, Radiohead, and that was the first time I was like, can someone hate Radiohead?
And I assume this person's no longer with us.
Right. I was like,
okay,
are you okay? Good. Is everything okay?
Right.
But anyway, never talk to that person again. So
that's good.
Checks out.
Yeah, checks out. Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy too because it's like one of the first songs on the album. Not the first song, but it's really close. And you're just like, well, what else are we going to do after this? But then it's still really good.
Yeah.
You know, I think for me, another one of the songs, exit music, parentheses for a film. Yes. Or is it exit parentheses music for a film?
Oh, I think it's the former.
I think it's the former. Okay.
Yeah.
Just has like these cool, like eerie, like backup vocals. Like there's these weird vocals that come in, and like that is the kind of stuff that I really vibe with then and now. But I think for me, it kind of sets it apart from other art rock, alt rock, Brit rock, whatever you want to call it, like UK, of the midnight.
UK garage?
Yeah, UK garage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the guitar parts too, you know, they're just, as a musician myself, are just really just weird and amazing.
Yeah. When I was listening to the whole album again, I have to say, I feel like every single song could be the exit music for a film.
Interesting.
It like, go listen to it because you're going to be like, has this been in a movie? Did I just watch a movie that had this?
You probably should, listener, you want to stop right now, listen to the record, and then resume the episode.
Come back.
So, like, okay, I guess that brings up a question. Like, would you consider this a perfect record or like a no-skip album?
Yes, except for Fitter Happier.
So no.
So no.
Okay.
So no, because Fitter Happier is like, well, let's move on. Let's get to the music.
Right. Yeah, it's really weird. I read a quote that Tom York said he wrote it in only like a few minutes, and they put it into a program that spits out text to speech. Oh. But 30 years ago.
Wow.
And it's like a fun novelty. And then if you really listen to what the actual words are, again, you're like, oh, this is kind of eerie and creepy and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then after, 30 seconds, you say, this is 2 minutes. Okay, let's just see what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I don't know if this is a hot take or maybe just a lukewarm take. I think there's actually maybe another song or two I might skip.
What? Which?
So, okay. I think it goes to the end of the album.
Yeah.
So, next to last song, Lucky,
mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, is probably my favorite song on the album. Even somehow edges out Paranoid Android, but is really more for the guitars because, like, I don't really pay much attention to lyrics.
Oh.
So I really like the guitar. Play the guitar. I've been playing for decades, since the Gulf War, I guess. And I really love the way Lucky is and ends. And then you're like, oh, this is a really perfect ending the record. And then The Tourist comes on, and I just think I get kind of bored. And then I'm like, well, and it's the last song, and I go, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I did think when I was listening back to it, I was like, man, The Tourist is so dreamy that I could just fall asleep to this. So I hear what you're saying, because you're like, yeah, I'm going to fall asleep if I keep listening.
Yeah. And I just want to hear Lucky again. So I guess what would be, I mean, that's mine. Just because if I had to boil it down to one thing, the guitar part in the bridge is just like this really interesting descending chord progression that's just really weird. It's really, really, really fun to play. Like when I first learned how to play it on the guitar, it's just kind of like obsessed and could play it over and over and over. So that's like my probably favorite song. Because I would say maybe Paranoid Android got like the tiniest bit overplayed just because it was so huge.
Right. I think it did.
Yeah. But what about you as far as like favorite songs you love the most, stand out listening to it again this time?
So I hot take a little bit. It's actually not Paranoid Android or Karma Police. I think No Surprises is up there. It's probably number 3 on my list. Climbing Up the Walls is probably my second favorite song on the album because it's so good. But then, okay, I'm giving listeners full permission to stop this podcast and go listen to
pause it again.
Yeah.
For the ones that came back, thanks, but pause it again.
We're gonna, or else Spotify will sue us if we play it. Go listen to the Fila Brasilia remix or mix of Climbing Up the Walls. It is so good. It's one of those covers or mixes that I personally think could be even better than the original. So Climbing Up the Walls is my second favorite. First favorite, after re-listening to this album a few times, Subterranean Homesick Alien.
Really?
Because the lyrics. And I truly almost started crying when I re-listened to it.
I wondered why you were crying that day.
It was Subterranean Homesick Alien. Yeah, because, and I'm just going to freaking read the lyrics and hopefully Warner Music doesn't come to sue us. But let's see here. I think this song is about basically aliens are circling above Earth and they're just watching us.
Correct.
And
Tom DeLonge proved it. Yes. And spoiler alert for an upcoming episode. Yes, go on.
And they're like, wow, it's so beautiful down there, but humans are just so uptight. And like, they shouldn't be uptight because they're surrounded by beauty. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to read these. It says, I wish they'd swoop down in a country lane late at night while I'm driving. Take me on board of their beautiful ship. Show me the world as I'd love to see it. I'd tell all my friends, but they'd never believe me. They'd think that I'd finally lost it completely. I'd show them the stars and the meaning of life. They'd shut me away, but I'd be all right. Like,
wow. Are you all right?
No,
That's my
knock
question.
me out. Do
you need a tissue?
Maybe.
Okay. That's good.
It's so good. So good. So yeah, I think that might have to be my favorite song.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, listening back, I can't help thinking about the music videos, Yeah. You're talking about Paranoid Android earlier. The No Surprises video is really interesting too.
Yes.
That was one I had forgot about actually until you reminded me, and then instantly just clicked back into my head, sitting in front of the TV as a child, going, "He's going to drown in that little, I don't know,
helmet."
Yeah,
fish bowl.
But I think for me, I like the Karma Police video the most. Again, just I guess I'll sound like a broken record on the first episode, so sorry, listeners. But like, it's just so weird and eerie, and the vibes are crazy. Because it has everything. It has a car chase and fire and really well done slow motion, so super high production value, especially for that era. Now, fun fact: do you know who directed that music video?
I feel like you told me once, and I'll never remember.
Okay. So it's actually Jonathan Glazer he did last year's The Zone of Interest.
What?
And has done, I believe, Street Spirit was his first collaboration with Radiohead. So Jonathan Glazer, amazing filmmaker, doing big movies now. I mean, he did a really crazy mob movie called Sexy Beast, that's really good, and one with Nicole Kidman called Birth, that is insanity. And then also Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson. So just very dark, very brooding, very moody, really, really cool uses of special effects and stuff like that. Karma Police is no exception. You can see where they had this relationship with Radiohead, which is really cool. And then going further, he also did another music video that's not for Radiohead, but it was for a song that Tom York is on, called Rabbit in Your Headlights by Uncle. That's also Jonathan Glazer.
Stop.
Which also features slow-mo, person running away from cars, stuff like that. So there's kind of that motif.
I remember that video.
Yeah. So yeah, and now he's doing The Zone of Interest.
Academy Award nominee.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He might have won something too.
Oh,
I don't know. We'll get the fact checkers on
John
that.
Glazer. What was
that?
We'll
do one take saying you almost won, and then another take will sing congratulations.
Okay, cool.
Okay, computer. So yeah, so I mean, like stuff like that, the music with the music videos and all the involvement with those and the other songs. I mean, would you consider anything here overplayed?
Maybe just Paranoid Android by a tiny bit.
Same.
It wasn't. I can still listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think even the rest of it, it's somehow no. Like you would think it would,
right?
Given its popularity, and how it's sort of always makes a lot of these, top albums of the decade or top albums from, this genre or this artist from the UK, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah. And even Paranoid Android, I mean, I never skipped it. I never turned it off after listening to the record a few times in preparation for this episode.
I know.
So I think that says something too, that I wasn't like, well, I mean, I heard this yesterday. I
wanted to hear it again.
Banged out the song every time. Yeah. Wanted to hear it again for sure.
Can we talk about if we've seen them live?
Yes, we actually have. Spoiler alert, we saw them together twice. So we were both in the same room as the band.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you think?
I mean, it was transcendent. I
I
mean,
know.
it was, we saw the first time we saw them, I think it was in 2007 or 8 off of the In Rainbows.
Yeah. Tour. They were touring off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again on the King of Limbs tour, I think it was in 2012.
Yeah.
I mean, both were just, it was unbelievable.
I know. I remember in 2007 they played Idiotech, not on OK Computer, but I lost my mind because that's one of my favorite songs from them. And then I remember when we saw them in 2012, we actually weren't going to go because it's sold out. And then like the day before the show,
maybe even the day of,
I think. Yeah. Somebody posted on Twitter, maybe the venue or something, or promoter said that they just released a bunch of tickets and we somehow got 4 tickets and we went and, the reason more tickets were released is because they opened up the sections right next to the stage. So we were just looking at the sides of their heads the whole show. But anyway, when the show was over and they had to walk down the stairs to backstage, we were able to like wave like crazy,
furious
waving at the band, and they waved back at us.
Yeah, that was a kind of surreal, surreal moment for sure.
So surreal.
You're talking about Idiotech, off of Kid A, not in the 90s, unfortunately, but still one of the best. I mean, how do you think OK Computer does compare to like the rest of their work?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously it's iconic, but
right.
Where does it sit for you in terms of their best, worst on the ranking kind of list?
Yeah. So for me, I think my what do you call it? Like white whale or something? Like your
white pony.
What the We're like the best of the best is Kid A actually.
Yeah, same.
That album was it for me. Obviously, OK Computer was iconic, but Kid A is probably number 1. But In Rainbows, I can't even talk about it. It was so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, the In Rainbows of it all, was so interesting because at the time when it came out, they, as you would say now, they dumped it onto streaming. They just put it on their website, disbanded with the label.
Right.
You don't have to pay for anything if you don't want to. So when a band did that, especially in 2007, it was kind of like, well, is this just like a throwaway thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, is this my favorite Radiohead album now? And it's however many, almost 2 decades later. And I think for me, it still sits probably up top, then Kid A,
right,
then OK Computer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking of going back to live shows, do you remember? So we were living in San Antonio years ago. I think it was
Shout out to San Antonio.
I think it was like 2010-ish. And the place we were living at the time was a block away from a university campus. And the reason this sticks out in my head is I think it's because of the season. It was like just getting kind of cold outside. So it had to be like December in San Antonio.
January.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mid-January.
Right.
That 1 week was great.
Yeah. And we started seeing around the neighborhood all these posters for a cover band playing OK Computer in its entirety on campus. And we were like, oh, we should go to that because it's down the road. And we went, and I cannot describe how just it was hearing the full album live, not even the band, but just outdoors. It's like fall. It's kind of cold. And it's these amazing songs. I remember walking back home that night and being like, wow, is that my favorite album of all time? Yeah.
Was it students playing it?
It might have been.
I feel like it was like a campus, like the student union puts together shows, and the School of Music, School of Rock, if you will, would put on those like free outdoor shows.
Yes. Well, I guess it had to have been, because why else would a band be playing on a school campus?
I couldn't tell you. No,
okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so what do you think? Do you know, OK Computer? I think we covered it. I mean, are there any other like final thoughts or like any songs you want to talk about specifically? I mean, we didn't really touch too much on some of the other iconic songs, but I don't know.
Yeah. No? I mean, if you know it, you more than likely love it. It just hit in a time in music history, and it just, Creep was good.
Mm-hmm.
And
overplayed.
A little overplayed.
Got very overplayed.
I'm sure everybody's heard about the interview with Tom York, and he's like, not only do I not like playing that song live anymore, but I was recently in a grocery store and I heard it and I didn't recognize it as my own band.
Wow.
So I think, overplayed. And then definitely a handful of songs from the Bends were amazing, but OK Computer was just, I know we've said it 100 times already, but so iconic.
Mm-hmm. It's part of the greatest year in music history.
Oh. Is it? We should put it in the podcast?
Yeah, I think so.
In this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, next time we talk about OK Computer, we'll record it.
Okay, good.
So let's get to ratings. So basically, for the listeners, end of every show, we're gonna give it a rating on a scale from 0 to 97. 97 being awesome, 0 being the worst.
Yeah.
So what do you give it out of 97?
Probably 93.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I gave it a 90 because I like round numbers.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, it's a near perfect record.
Yes.
Like, to get an A+ is pretty outstanding to stand that kind of test of time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I only give it a couple dings just because of like, I might skip this song, might want this song to end, get on to the next one, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So not a full 97.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. We don't know. We're recording these out of order. We don't know
who gets a perfect score. Right.
Hopefully no one gets a 0.
No. Or else this is not a good podcast. We should cancel it.
That's true. We're still on the fence about that too. But I think that'll do it for the episode.
Yay.
So just want to thank everyone for listening. Make sure to follow us on social. We're going to be posting a lot of, clips and memes and excerpts and stuff like that. Maybe some outtakes or bonus stuff that didn't make it into the recording. It's hopefully by the time this goes out, all channels will be up as Greatest Music Pod. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Yes, Threads. TikTok, all that stuff. And
and tell us, well, first of all, report back on how you feel about the Fila Brasilia mix of Climbing Up the Walls. I need to know. But tell us your favorite memories from the album. We'd love to hear them, and make sure you give us a follow and a rating on Spotify and Apple Music, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. And now we should say as a disclaimer, we are only taking 5-star ratings at this time. Probably for the foreseeable future. But yeah, stay tuned to the next episode where we'll be covering Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.